Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited to be here to share some of my passion with all of you that I think a lot of you probably share as well. And that's something that, whether we love it or not, is in our life all the time. And that's music. So whether we're driving to school in the morning and our parents are playing that annoying old song that they love so much, or we're on YouTube following our favorite YouTubers, or we're making our next epic TikTok, we're around music. And it's something that holds us all together. And it's something that is a part of our lives and something that we can't ignore. And I want to talk about music in a different way that maybe you haven't thought about before, that is fascinating to me. And if we take any song that we hear, whether it's something that we hear whether it's something that we hear on the radio, whether it's something we hear in a movie, we've got these different sections of a song that are pretty common here in the Western Hemisphere, kind of depending on the type of music that you like, whether you're into country or rock or dance music. We have all these different sections of a song. We've got an introduction to the song. We've got our verse 1. We've got our verse 2. We've got our hook in the song, which is the part that we always sing along to, right? It's the familiar part. Very often has the title of the song in it. Maybe we've got a break with a guitar solo or a rap breakdown, one of those really, really cool, catchy sections. And then we have an outro. And what all these different sections of the song have in common are similar. We have a rhythm that drives what we feel, very often coming from drums or coming from a bass, something that makes us want to dance. Maybe we've got some chords, right, that come from a piano or a guitar that really give us a lot of this feeling of the song and the pattern. And then, of course, we have the melody, which is the part that we sing. Now, what's really interesting is that all of these different parts of the song are made up of groups of notes. So if we look at those groups of notes and we start to boil that down even farther and we look at, well, what the heck is a musical note? Well, a musical note, sure, it's one of those dots and a line on a piece of paper that we see in music class, right? But we can look at that note and it gives us some information. It gives us some information about what that is going to sound like. For example, it's a C sharp, it's an E flat, it's a D, right? Maybe we have a group of notes together. And that note does give us some information. It tells us the length of the sound we're going to hear. And it also tells us the pitch, how high or low that sound is going to be. But it doesn't tell us what that note really sounds like. We had some awesome fiddle players up here earlier. I can tell you that if you play a C sharp on that fiddle, it's going to sound a lot different than the C sharp that I'm going to play on the tuba that I played when I was in middle school, all right? They're very, very different C sharps. And the reason for that is that because every sound in the universe, including all of these different musical instruments, produces what we call a different waveform, all right? So these are basically changes in pressure of sound. Now, that note on paper looks like a smooth note, right? Just like that first line that I have up there on the top, all right? If you hear about tuning an A note to 440 hertz, well, yeah, that's right. 440 hertz is an A. And you think of this nice, smooth sine wave like we see up there. But the truth is that if we play a note on a guitar, it's not going to be a perfectly smooth sine wave. If we play a note on a piano, it's not going to be a perfectly smooth sine wave. And the guitar and the piano waveforms are going to look different. And that's because they each have these very, very unique acoustic properties. Everything in the universe has a different acoustic property. And that's really fascinating. If I stomp my foot, it makes a sound. If I clap my hands, it makes a sound. If I drop a glass and it shatters on the floor, that makes a sound. And they could all be happening in the same patterns, but they're all going to sound different. So with this in mind, thinking about the fact that everything in the world makes a unique sound, wouldn't it be cool if we could make music out of all these other things that we don't consider instruments? Most of the music that we hear today actually includes some sort of sample that has been recorded that is not coming from a conventional instrument. We don't just go into a recording studio with traditional musical instruments and play music. There's sounds coming from lots of other places. So what if we could not only take that sample and we could process that sample and do some cool things with it, all right? So with that in mind, we can do a lot of things. We can make that sample shorter, we can make it higher, we can make it lower, we can make it louder, we can make it quieter, we can put all kinds of effects on it. And It's because of technology today being more accessible than ever that we can do things like this. So instead of me just talking about this, I thought it would be really fun to show you guys how we could do this today. So I enlisted a little bit of help from my friend, DJ Bowtie over here. Ryan has been one of my, DJ Bowtie. Ryan has been an excellent student of mine over the past few years, and it's really exciting to see him making music. And so I called Ryan last week. I said, hey, could you do me a favor for this presentation? I know how I want to do this. I want to start with a sample that we hear every day. And it doesn't have to be in a recording studio. It doesn't have to be anywhere fancy like that. I just want you to take out your phone and say something into the phone about yourself. So I get a text and it says this.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and I learned to DJ at TEDxKids DJ Academy.
Very simple, right? Just a nice little sample of his voice. What's cool is that, like fingerprints, Ryan's voice is like nobody else's. Ryan has a very, very unique voice that might sound similar to others, but there are properties of Ryan's voice that is very, very different. So what I did is I took that recording and I captured it into some software. Right? I took it from my phone and I just dragged it over into my software as an MP3 file, just like we do every day on our computers. And this is what Ryan's voice looks like. We talk about those unique waveforms. I showed you that guitar. I showed you that piano. Well, this is Ryan's voice saying, hi, my name is Ryan, and I learned to DJ at TEDxKids DJ Academy. And so you guys probably learned about graphs in math class, right? Well, this is intensity over time, all right? So you can see the intensity of Ryan's voice. When it gets higher, you see his voice getting louder. You see the pauses between the words. And we're able to look at the different sections of what Ryan said that all now come together. Okay, well, that's a pretty cool start. Well, what if we chop this up? What if we went ahead and took Ryan's voice and I broke it up so that I could take each section of what he said and make it its own sample? And now I could actually assign a button in my software that triggers Ryan saying that word. For example. So for example, I could trigger one button that says, right? And then we've got, right? That's Ryan's voice, and now it's pretty cool. We've got some effects on there that should be turned off here, but that's the beauty of doing this live. So what we've got is we've got Ryan's voice all chopped up. And now what's really cool is we could actually take Ryan's voice and we can process it from how he's already been speaking. So for example, let's say I want to work on making a drum out of Ryan's voice. All right? We can do this.
Hi, my name is Ryan,
And I learned to DJ.
Right? We can pitch his voice down. We can change that frequency. All right? That's really cool. We can get it really low.
My name is Ryan, and I learned to DJ at TEDxKids.
Right, so we can take that really, really, really low, right? Now, what if I was just to shorten that sample of Ryan saying hi, right? Well, if I really, really shorten that, and then maybe I pick up the volume of it a little bit, it starts to sound like this. It starts to sound like a drum. If we go back to where Ryan said, that part where he said, right? That kind of sounds like a hi-hat, those two cymbals that are put together, right? Well, I can process that sound. And that's all Ryan's voice that we're hearing right now. When he says DJ, J, and I that starts to sound like a clap or a snare drum, right? So we can bring that up. And now all of a sudden, I've got some drums that I can play with Ryan's voice. Who knew Ryan was such a good beatboxer, right? Pretty cool, pretty cool. So now what we can do is we can actually do something that is called sequencing, all right? We can take that after we've taken our sample, we've shortened it, we found a certain spot that has a nice acoustic property that we can run with. We can change that volume. We can change what's called EQ, which is where we change the bass and the treble. All right? What we can do is we can go ahead and create a kick drum. All right? We can create a snare. We can create a hi-hat. All right? And now we can do what's called sequencing, which is where we're going to tell our computer to play those things in a certain order. For example, like what I just played. There we go. We got a nice trap beat. This sounds like something my kids would make a video to on TikTok. All right? Now I can go ahead and I can make a bass sound on my little keyboard here. I'm gonna add some chords. Nice build up. And we'll drop it down. Now, we can then sample Ryan's voice over the top of that. All right, so that entire song that we just created was 100% from Ryan's voice. And so the message that I want to leave you all with today is that music is all around us. And everything that we hear is something that you might hear in a song someday. So I hope this gives you guys a little bit of inspiration for any of you that ever want to go out and pick this up and make music. It's something that has just been more accessible than it ever has, and I hope that some of you get to try it. Thank you so much.